The movie stars Korean actor Bong Tae-gyu and the lead role of Byung-gang-so. Set against the backdrop of Joseon Dynasty in Korea, somewhere between the late 1300s and the early 1900s, A Tale of Legendary Libido is a new take on a super famous Korean tale which stretches as far back as the 1800s Korea, during the days of Japanese rule. The film starts off by introducing our hero, Byung-gang-so, who in this day and age would be what could be considered a sexual predator. But even as recently as 2008, he is considered a player as the story develops. The original story actually focuses on the wife of Gang-so, so this is a new take on the classic story. During his formative years, Gang-so was recently mocked for having a less than desirable sized manhood. For want of a better way of putting it, and is something of a laughing stock with the ladies in his village. He also has the unenviable job of being a race cake seller in the village, a job which comes with little fanfare, and as such is treated largely as the village idiot. To make matters worse for Gang-so, his brother is somewhat of a ladies' man, and although he envies him, his brother does try to look out for Gang-so, somewhat. Selling rice cakes is something akin to a street food seller these days, and in a country and era which sees job and work success as the pinnacle of life, Gang-so is certainly not on the radar for any women in the village, unfortunately for him. As the story develops, it appears that, as legend has it, a potion exists that can increase a man's ability between the sheets, and as it turns out, our man Gang-so decides he needs the potion more than any other man in the village. As he just found out, he was involved in that accident earlier in life which deprived him of part of himself, shall we say. So the existence of a potion which will cure all his problems is music to his ears. Apparently the potion is made from the nose of a totem pole, which has been soaked in aged wine. As legend has it, the nose of the totem pole once set a horde of naked men romping through a village, apparently willing to have sex with anything that moved, which is pretty wild. The logic dictated that the wine leads any man who comes in contact with it to acquire the legendary powers it seems to harbor. Now armed with this knowledge, Gang-so dreams of getting his hands on this fabled potion, but he has no idea where it is or how he can get his hands on it. Gang-so's manhood was rendered useless after his accident, which led to any female he came in contact with ridiculing him for being absolutely useless in the bedroom department, which is enough to drive any man insane. Despite his accident and apparent lack of any meaningful relationship with the opposite sex, Byung-gang-so is still a skilled fighter, and for this reason, it seems as though he may actually be able to acquire his wish of getting a hold of the rumored magic potion, should anyone ever find out its true whereabouts. Gang-so decides to hide himself in the mountains after being mercilessly mocked for so long, and one day comes across an old man and his helper, who are both in a spot of trouble as they appear to be trapped. However, the old man isn't just any old man. He is a monk. He harbors a secret. So Gang-so does the only thing a nobleman would do, despite his questionable record with the fairer sex, and rescues the pair, making sure no harm comes to them. As a token of his gratitude, the old monk lets Gang-so in on his little secret. He knows where the potion is and how our man Gang-so can get to it. Of course, it's not just as simple as finding it and keeping it for himself. The potion comes from some pretty strict guidelines for its use. Bayon is warned by the old man that should he fail to adhere to these guidelines, which includes not having sex for 2 weeks after drinking it, his village would face utter ruin and devastation. At this point, we can pretty much guess what will happen, as Gang-so, who harbors dreams of becoming one of the biggest womanizers in the land, is desperate to show the women of the world what they were missing and prove once and for all that the females in the surrounding areas were wrong to doubt him for all those years. Obviously, Gang-so is unable to keep his promise to the old man as he's eager to get to work with his newfound powers. And after a string of crude jokes and the lead up to the main man unleashing his newfound powers, we also see some pretty bizarre sights, such as a physician who urinates with the force of a fire hose and a group of men performing a synchronized synchronized swimming routine in order to find a lost show, which is pretty odd. Around the same time that Gang So finds and drinks the potion, fortunately for Bayon, war breaks out and all of the men from the surrounding areas are rounded up and taken off to fight. Everyone, that is, apart from Gang So himself. His new job in defense of the village sees him use his newfound sexual prowess to protect the village somehow. Yes, really. It's at this point in the film where it starts to head from the silly to the ridiculous. As all of the men are out of town, Bayon revels in his newfound job as the satisfier of all ladies in the town, and is only too happy when he realizes the women are literally queuing outside his house to get their share of Gang So. One English poster of the movie even has the caption, "Wait your turn," which again is pretty wild. Bayon, of course, is only too happy to oblige the young ladies of the village and has a lot of fun along the way, it has to be said. Of course, once Bayon has had his fun, which has been solely lacking throughout his youth and young manhood, he realizes that his newfound lifestyle isn't as fulfilling as what he once thought it would have been. The movie, which some people have claimed is slightly too long, as there are long periods of the film where not a lot happens, with limited jokes, then sees Gang So work his way through the town's adoring females, whilst he lusts after one woman in particular. When all the men in the village were sent off to war, included in the battalion was his big brother, whom we met earlier in the movie. His older brother was married, but his wife still lives in the village, and after a while, Gang So decides that he is madly in love with his brother's wife. Korean Casanova Gang So decides to pursue his brother's wife. Maybe partly out of jealousy from a wasted youth, it was, after all, his brother's fault that he lost his ability to use his manhood after he set his younger brother's private parts on fire. So, pursuing his brother's wife is probably born out of some form of revenge. As always, thanks for stopping by today, and remember to join us next time for some more movie reviews. Also, remember to like and share our video today, and also subscribe to our channel to make sure you get the next reviews as soon as they drop. Bye, guys.